everyone. It is Friday the 1st of May 2020. I am currently working on the ADHD Workbench project, and I have a sub-project within that called Habit Tracker. So today I'm going to start by doing some analysis of what we need. I already have some basic application specifications written out here in a document. Obviously, it's on the screen. You can see that. All right, so I'm a little nervous. First time. So, to start with, having ADHD myself, I use a technique called the Pomodoro technique, and this little kitchen timer is going to help me with that. It's just a method of time boxing. Helps me manage my focus and helps me to get into flow or hyper focus very quickly, and also to halt that process so I don't burn my focus out, I don't feel exhausted afterwards, and I can focus for as long as I need to and maintain that focus over a period of time. To use these, turn it all the way to the end, back to 25 minutes. That's a standard Pomodoro time, and I think that's where my attention span is at the moment. So when you hear a buzz, it's going to be this little timer going off. Hopefully you won't hear the clicking too much on the microphone, and hopefully you won't hear my neighbour's TV too much either. Sorry about the lighting. It's evening time here. I'm starting very late today, but I want to get a start and I want to get some good vibes going. Good vibes are very important, so let's get into it. So here we have my specification document, and I don't normally use this input device on this computer, so don't have all my shortcuts set up. And we're going to come down here to the habit tracker. So a habit tracker is basically just a grid. You write it out for a month at a time. On the vertical axis, you have a list of the dates, and on the top, you have the list of your tasks that you want to do. They usually should be very simple, easy tasks or habits that you want to do every day. Like, did I meditate today? Did I do the dishes? Or whatever it is that you want to develop into a habit. You use the habit tracker to track that. As you can see, there's some notes there on the screen now. So let's take a copy of this description. And of course, nothing is working the way I want it to. Let's just move to keyboard. And I'm just going to be doing, as I said, I'm not going to start coding yet, but I'm just going to do some analysis. We're going to be looking for, we want to be looking for what are the key objects or items let's just fix up some formatting. Okay. So we have all the keywords here. Habit tracker is filled out by the user. On the vertical axis, you have a list of dates. So I have dates. And on the top horizontal axis, you have a list of tasks. See, we're just trying to get these key concepts. Throughout the day, a user ticks off the habits. Okay, so check boxes or tick boxes, because I'm not American. I say tick, not check. Some habits which are done multiple times today may be counted with a 5-stroke system, although this might be as important for digitally capturing the data. So we might want to just duplicate that to make things more easily. Let's just put a question mark, multiple times per day, because what we're really after at the moment is what's called a minimum viable product. And then we can look at extending that product as we go on. But we want to just keep to the core essential things that are needed at the time being. And okay, so let's playing with my windows. There we go. So I switch between operating systems a lot, so sometimes I get a little bit of dysphoria in terms of what I'm using, but that's okay. So we have dates in a month with a list of tasks, we have tick boxes, and we have multiple times per day. So we want task. This is going to be a short string. We're going to have the current month. So is that maybe a date? Maybe like the first of the month that we can extract that data from, as well as the day of the month. Maybe that's going to be a date field also. And then we want to have completed. This is a tick box. At the moment, we just want to think about capturing the data. I don't want to spend too much time thinking about the visual UI, although that will become important very quickly. So this is pretty much all there is. So we're also going to have some things that aren't listed here but are implicit in the specifications. We always need to think about what is unsaid when we're analyzing software for development. So what's unsaid is we're going to have some kind of user management system. So we're going to have user, possibly password, system. We'll see. Now, the next question is language. At my work, I currently use C and C++. Previously, in a previous project, I used Java. I also have experience in other languages, but I'm really tempted to have a go with the Rust programming language. Rust is it's a modern object-oriented language, in some ways similar to C++. It's built for everything from embedded systems to web servers. It's just another high-level language. There's no real good reason why I'm using Rust other than that it provides a lot of memory management that C++ and C doesn't have. So in C and C++, you have to really track how you're using memory. Most modern programming languages, you don't have to be concerned with this. However, you don't always get as good as performance as what you would with C and C++. C and C++ are going to be the gold standards in terms of performance, but as a developer, you have to do a lot more work. So I'm unsure at the moment whether I should just stick to C and C++ and make myself aware of the security concerns and the memory management concerns with it, or if I use a language like Rust or another language. I have been doing a little bit of research today into what frameworks are available to Rust because I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel. The problem with the frameworks, they give you a lot, but they also have, the cost is that you have to learn how to use a framework or that particular framework. So my investigations have been, let's see, Rust in Rust. So here's there's a few things I'm looking at. A few web pages here. Let's see, stainless, for example. I did have a list. I should have been more prepared, but I'm wanting to show you also the real experience about what I'd be doing. So let's build a web server. That's maybe a bit too low level for what we're after, because we want a nice framework that's going to be taking care of things. And why is that window? That's better. I'm using QuickTime on my Mac computer at home. At work, I use a Linux desktop. I tend to prefer Linux. That's just a personal preference. Creating. Again, this is people are doing really roll your own. This one is using a framework called Nickel. Again, every time that you make a choice in technology, there's always a trade-off. And the end is sometimes when you're at the start of the project, there's not necessarily any bad choices or good choices. People have religious wars about what framework's best. It's really about what you find suits your needs the best. You want something with certain features, then you go for those features. If you want something because you're familiar with that, if you want something, then you go for that. If you want something that has got a big following and trend, and you feel that that language or that framework matches the type of work that you want to do professionally, then they're all valid reasons, right? So we're trying to figure out for our little project what we're going to do. So far, just to recap, no thank you, just to recap, we've taken a look at some of the key concepts of what we're wanting to do with our habit tracker. Very, very simple. We're unspoken. We know going to need to have user management. We also going to need, in my document, there are, I guess, descriptions about the loftier goals of the project. So I'm wanting something that ultimately will fit in with those loftier goals of the project. So I want to write independent software components that can communicate with each other and share data, maybe something that uses WebAssembly. I haven't decided on all these things yet. You're in this process with me, so if I'm a little bit all over the shop, it's okay. It'll get worked out in the end as we move forward and make these technical choices. Things will become more clear for us, and hopefully everything will be successful. And the main thing that depends on is, at the moment, is me, because there's no real other developers in the project. I really like working with other developers because they point out things to you that you've overlooked or that you rushed and you know you need to come back to, and then they just help keep you on course because they point those things back out to you. Yeah, pair programming is a wonderful thing. This one says open source crates like Nickel RS and MongoDB Rust driver make it possible to create RESTful APIs in the Rust language. In this article, we cover how to get post and delete requests and use articles. So this is by a guy called Ryan, a developer. This is his blog, I'm assuming. There we go. A unique feature that Rust has is the way it enforces memory safety. This is very attractive to me. Okay, and although I've not really written anything in Rust before, this code makes sense. I'm thinking that this here must be a type. This is the variable name, and this is asking for a new instance of nickel, and asking of the server, and a router. A router is something that takes a web request. In this case, in this context, it takes a web request and it takes that first path after the server details and treats that as a request and routes that request to the particular piece of software that you want. So there's a request and a response. So you receive the request, you return a response. And it just says format hello from get user simple. It looks quite straightforward. It's a standard REST API. Nothing too complicated. You can see it's testing, manually testing. Connects to MongoDB. Now this is important because you need to store your data somewhere. I don't want to have to restart my application or the server and then discover that all of my information has disappeared. So Mongo is a very popular open source persistent store. It's no SQL. And it uses like JSON-like structures to save data. Let's see here, this. So this is modeling the data. You can tell it's got a label here. It's a name and the data type. So let's take a look at what else I've been looking at. Actix is an actor system, which is made for concurrent. It's built around concurrency. I have been looking at some discussions on actor systems. This is Rust WebAssembly, so this is just on Rust itself. Again, I'm interested in WebAssembly because it's going to provide that backbone of communications between applications. I'm not sure yet. Not so relevant to me. Top 6 Rust frameworks to use in 2019, as posted on Reddit by Solus Infotech. They recommend Rocket, Actix, Nickel. Actix is quite interesting, as is Tower Web, from what I was looking today. Conrad doesn't really seem to be something because it's got this portable 2D GUI library for Rust. I'm not sure about that, if that's really what we're after. Same with Azul. I like the sound of, but the thing that I don't like the sound of is testing. Testing isn't totally wholesome in U. You can create individual services, yet there's no chance to get to test components. Both integration and end-to-end testing can't be accomplished in plain Rust. I really am a strong believer in automatic testing. I think test-driven development should be the preferred development style. We'll see. Rocket sounds somewhat promising. The thing I don't like about Rocket is that Rocket demands that you use the latest build of Rust. This creates stability concerns, because if you're always using the bleeding edge of something, and it changes overnight, and they change a key component of that. You see it's not even at version 1 yet. And even smaller details may change overnight, meaning that your application may work one day and then you got to use it the next day. You've got to develop further in it the next day. Rocket's been updated, and you find that the methods that you're using, or methodology that you're using previously, is no longer working. So I'm a little bit hesitant to say Rocket. However, it is very popular. It's very well supported. It has a big fan base. But that whole bleeding edge is I want something that's modern and contemporary, but I do want it to be somewhat tested and trusted with time. And Rocket, at least my impressions, may not be there yet. So this was a discussion I was looking at. I'll try to provide links to these web pages I'm looking at. Speaking of which, I'll just reopen that so I don't forget to include that one. So this one talks about the actor model. As I said before, Actix, and uses the actor, is based upon the actor model. So I was just giving myself a refresher. There's nothing wrong with constantly reviewing. The more time you spend reviewing and thinking about the problem, I think the better beforehand, because rather than just rushing into something. And that's why I'm doing this video now. It's just to have this little mosey around, see what's out there, see what might be suitable for us, making a sane decision at the start, and then committing to it. Once you're committed to it, you can go back. It might take you time, but if you've committed to one thing and you do some basic programming and you have those tests written and you have that logic clear, that's a lot of thought work, and it actually is a lot less effort to rewrite and clarify your thoughts and refactor them, even if you're refactoring it to another framework, than starting again from scratch. Don't be afraid of refactoring is my message there. So Active was here. Here you see active is asynchronous, which is attractive. You might want to have a whole range of servers. If usually, I don't have any grand misconceptions about how useful or how popular my software is going to be, but it's something that's definitely in its favor, that it can act asynchronously, and you can split it out over different services as needed, as the services over different servers, physical servers as needed. Okay, it seems quite straightforward. I did have I was looking first frames. Not sure if I agree with everything they're saying here. Web frameworks of choice in community are Actix, Gotham, Rocket, TowerWeb, and Warp. So this is from arewewebYet.org. So let's see what it says about MySQL, which is a very popular open source SQL relational database. Postgres, Again, that is a relational database, SQL based, very similar to MySQL. Some people say it's much better. MySQL is definitely more popular. Redis is a key value store, I believe, and it's memory only. So once it's gone, it's gone. However, memory is very cheap now, and there's high uptimes, and you can actually write out Redis to disk still, but it is memory based rather than disk based. ORMs are object relational mappers, so again, you can see it's dealing with Postgres, MySQL, SQLite. Okay, so I've never again, I've never used Rust before. It's just something that really interests me. And this is a passion project, and it's a small project, so it's a good time to experiment. That's the end. I'll see you in a few minutes.